So at this stage of ownership, I had just got the Mach 1. This was about 2010. If you've seen the previous videos, you'll see how I got the car and how I would come up here to the airport where I was keeping the car in my parents' hangar, and I would work on the car, clean it up, and do my homework because there was internet up there at the airport. And I was living in an apartment downtown. I didn't have the internet down there, and so it gave me a reason to come up here. I didn't have any kids yet. It was a lot of fun just coming up and spending time with the Mach 1, and all that was covered in the previous videos. If you haven't seen those, that was pretty fun to watch. But my brother was also keeping his red Mach 1 up here at the airport because he had bought it with a bad transmission. So he ended up putting a lot of money into his and ended up spending what I spent on my Mach 1 in great condition when all was said and done, but we both had nice Mach 1s. So this was his second V8. He has the white GT that he just got back recently. It's a long story. He has that on his channel. But basically, he had this red Mach 1, and then I was able to go out and get the blue one, and I was so excited. This was my first V8 Mustang, and to this day it's the Mustang that I've owned the longest out of 22 Mustangs that I've owned. So you can see the cars are sitting up here at the airport. We could drive them around here. No license plates, just enjoying them. But I was absolutely thrilled to have this Mach 1 Mustang. A V8 Mustang just alone would have been awesome to have. I loved the GTs. I would have been happy getting a GT, but getting a Mach 1 was a big deal for me, especially since I loved these cars since they were new. I got to see them in the showroom. Of course, I wanted a Terminator Cobra, and the prices were just so big back then. You know, it just made sense to buy the Mach 1 at this time in my life. I didn't have a house yet. I didn't have a garage to keep it in, but I was able to keep it up here at the hangar. But at this point, I had driven a 2001 Mustang Cobra convertible that was mineral gray. It belonged to my cousin's uncle, and he let my brother and me drive it. So I had driven a 32 valve Cobra, very similar on horsepower and everything as the Mach 1, and so it was really fun, but I didn't have a lot of experience, and so this was a time to drive it around the airport, get used to the car, get to hear the different noises the V8 made, get used to the clutch. It's a very nice light clutch in this car. It was replaced right before I bought it, and I believe it's a factory OEM clutch because it's really nice and smooth and light. But you'll see in this video here of me just kind of getting used to it and kind of revving it higher than I needed to, and it's all just part of the process of getting used to a new car. But I absolutely loved this Mach 1. I loved having it up here at the airport, and so I have some footage of the car up here driving around when it didn't have license plates on it yet, and then you'll see it does have the plates. But something I did do during all this was I traded the wheels for my brother's Mach 1 wheels, since his was going to be down for a while getting that new transmission, and his tires were better because these rear ones were kind of dry rotted. They were 285 wide tires, and they did have some cracking in them. So you'll see that I have my brother's Mach 1 wheels on later in this upcoming video clip here, and you can see why he's upset about that because of what I do with the car. But also keep note of the Flowmaster exhaust. You can see the exhaust tips are a lot smaller than the SLP ones that I'll be getting later. And I know we've talked about Flowmasters, and some people love them on their cars. I did not prefer them. I think they were too quiet for the car, and they had kind of a tinny sound. And that's well represented in this video of the car driving around at the airport. So it's a BBK Cat X pipe and Flowmaster mufflers, a whole Flowmaster catback actually. And it sounded okay, and the 4-valve sounds good no matter what exhaust is on it, but this represents that exhaust pretty well. And it also brings back a lot of memories of what the car used to sound like.
It's a beautiful car. I love that car.
this footage is important to me because this airport is now gone. My parents' hangar is not there anymore, and it's always windy up there, so that's all stuff that brings back a lot of memories while I'm up here.
Good thing he has my tires on his car.
So I ended up getting the car registered and insured, and I would take it down here to the apartment complex where I lived and go have fun with my friends. We had other friends with a Z28 LT1 car, a 94, 93, one of the earlier ones, and another friend with the LS1 white Trans Am, and just other Mustangs, V6 cars, a friend with the '06 Challenger. And so we would take our cars down here and we'd meet up, and this was before there was a whole lot of social media things to meet up with. And I did start a Facebook page with my friends, and we went around putting notes on any muscle car we could see in shopping centers or gas stations. We talked to people, and we got a pretty good group going. And so it was fun to get a bunch of muscle cars together, especially because the import versus muscle car thing was pretty strong in this town. So we had a good group of muscle cars here, and it was a lot of fun to get together with all of these guys. And so back at my apartment, we met up, and I just loved taking pictures of the Mach 1, just being around the car, out in the open, enjoying the car as my new Mustang, and just loving how beautiful and great shape this car was. It had 75,000 miles on it when I bought it. And so one of the first things that we did when we all bought a new car was we did the seafoam thing. And I'm not really into that anymore. I don't do that to any of my other cars, but back then it was said to be such a good thing to clean the engine out. And what you basically do is you get the seafoam stuff and you find a vacuum line that goes to the intake of the car, and while the car is running, you kind of let the vacuum suck in some of the seafoam product, and it gets it ingested into the intake manifold and down into the pistons, and then you shut the car off and you let it sit in the hot engine, and it's supposed to break up the carbon that's in the pistons. And so everybody likes to do it because then when you start the car and you drive off, it leaves a big smoke show, and everyone feels like they're just burning all this carbon out of their engine and stuff off their pistons. And my brother had actually done a video about this, and he showed that a lot of times what you're really seeing is the seafoam product itself being burned up. Now, seafoam, you can put it in the gas tank, you can put it in the crankcase to clean out the crankcase if you're going to do an oil change and you want to break up all that stuff. But that's not a good idea either, because it can break up gunk inside the engine and then clog the pickup tube for the oil pickup. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff on the internet about this, but back then, it's kind of like a fuel stabilizer too. It does all those things. But basically, back then, my friends and I would all seafoam our cars, and we would burn carbon out of them, if that's really what it was. But I think it really was more the product burning through. But here's the video of the smoke show after we seafoamed my Mach 1.
Yeah, not that much. Wow.
I need to turn around and come this way.
You can hear an echo off of that storage unit. Sounds really good.
That's stopping it right before it hits red line.
So this is my friend and brother-in-law's LT1 Camaro, and his did a better smoke show, probably because it had 200,000 miles.
Man.
So I really enjoyed driving the car around. That's my brother-in-law in the background who has the Camaro. He was standing guard so I could take some pictures because it was kind of a big corner there. I remember that the Mach 1 had a slight misfire. One of the ignition coils was going out, and I did research and found out it was like number 7 or number 8. Someone on the forums, I think it was the Mach 1 registry, had said that that's the first one that usually goes out. It's common. So I just bought one ignition coil and I put it in number 7, and it worked out perfect. So it didn't have any problems. We took it on a nice test drive out here. This is a really awesome place to go around a lake, and it's in kind of a twisty back road area, and I like taking my cars out here sometimes. I just remember seeing this bridge here and saying I want to do a burnout across the bridge, so I got the car ready. I gave the camera to my brother-in-law and I let her rip. So my brother and I loved driving our Mach 1s around together, and being twins, both having V8 Mustangs, you can kind of guess what's going to happen next. We wanted to run them around together, and it wasn't really to see who would beat the other one. It was just to have some fun. And of course, somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. But what I love about this upcoming footage is the sound of the Mach 1. And my brother's Mach 1 had the SLP exhaust and off-road SLP X-pipe. So it sounded perfect. And it sounded so good and so loud that you can't hardly even hear my Mach 1, which the camera's inside. And that made me just really want to get rid of the Flowmasters and go to the SLP. Along with, we really felt like those Flowmasters were so restrictive that they were actually hindering some of the performance of the car. Because the SLP mufflers are just straight through bullet style race mufflers, and I really think it helps pick up a little bit of torque. And so this is some footage of us running the two cars together. He has his Cobra R wheels on it just because we were always switching wheels around and wearing out tread and, you know, being good with our tires and our money and stuff. But that's why his car has the Y2K Cobra R wheels on it, which were on our V6 Mustangs. We each had a set of those. So anyway, this sounded so good, and I love the neck and neck runs where it just sounds so good. but really you would have to grab your ear and plug it sometimes because it was so loud, and it was just awesome. So there's much more to come with this story. I love this Mach 1, and stay tuned for the rest of the parts of this story. And if you didn't catch the other parts, go back and watch them if you'd like. I think it's a lot of fun to see this old footage of the car and see as it progresses and the things that I end up doing with the car. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for more Mustang content.